Welcome to part 4 of our series. Now, in part 1 we looked at the origins behind the creation of the state of Nigeria. In part 2 we looked at Nigeria from 1914 to 1922, which saw the establishment of the Clifford Constitution. Also, in our part 3 we looked at the Clifford Constitution and we looked at the Second World War and a lot of the rise of the new generational nationalists. Now, in this part 4, we'll be looking at the efforts of the new generational nationalists. Now, the new generation nationalists were the likes of Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo, and many others. Now, these were young, new, vibrant Nigerians who had gone abroad to study. Mostly of them did not study in Britain, they studied in the United States. And they had this form of Pan-Africanist movement in them that they wanted a form of liberated Nigeria. Now, also, coupled with the fact that Britain had just won the Second World War, right? Yes, they won the war. But however, their international power dwindled a little bit. So, like, they didn't have that power they had prior to the Second World War. So they were already weak, you understand? So Britain knew that they were weak and they didn't want this nationalism to kind of make them lose another colony, because they were already losing colony at this period. And India was already gone, because by 1947, India became independent. Now, so what happened was that the Governor General of Nigeria at that moment, Sir Otto Richard, now devised a new constitution. First of all, abolished the Clifford Constitution and created a new constitution known as the Richard Constitution of 1946. Now, how did this Richard Constitution change the political organization of Nigeria? First of all, it established the 3 regional system, which later played a major role in the early part of post-independence Nigeria. Now, the 3 regional system, the 3 regions was a really big push by a good efforts by the nationalists, because they approved of it, because now it now changed Nigeria from being just a 2 dictatorial style of governance, or did not even have it, but now Nigeria now had 3 separate regions. We had the northern region, the western region, and the eastern region. Now, each of these regions had what we call regional assemblies. They had regional assemblies. Now, these regional assemblies played pure advisory role. They didn't have any legislative power, just like the way the Legislative Council played a pure advisory role in the Clifford Constitution. But this time, it wasn't just limited to Lagos and Calabar. It was not spread to all over the country. Like, every region had a legislative assembly that they could use to advise the regional governor on what was going to happen. But however, that constitution had an hiccup. The hiccup was that the legislative assembly had no form of legislative power. It was just called a legislative assembly by name. It was ceremonial. It didn't have any significant power. And these new generation nationalists began to fight against the same Richard Constitution, which they embraced initially. But by the late 1940s to the early 1950s, a new protest erupted, especially by likes of Zik, Obafemi Awolowo, many others, now began clamoring for a reform of the Richard Constitution. And they wanted the legislative assemblies to start making laws, especially about their regions, not that they just advise. And they wanted a form of little bit of power for the legislative assemblies than just being ceremonial, you get. So, eventually, in 1951, a new constitution was enacted, and it was known as the McPherson Constitution. And we'll discuss that in part 5 of this video, of this Nigerian history series. Hope you learned something. Thank you.